Good morning, folks. This is Brother Allen with Bible Commentary. We have been teaching about the book of Revelation, and last time we ended up with the opening of the first seal, which is in the second vision. So we will continue on with the opening of the seals. There are 7 seals in all. So we shall look at chapter 6, verse 8, and begin with the second seal. And when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creatures say, "Come." And there went out another horse that was red. And power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that is the land, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Let me reiterate that we are looking at the things in Revelation which was written to the 7 churches of Asia, of the things which must shortly come to pass. I want to reiterate that Revelation is nothing more than an extended version of Matthew chapter 24. And this is the time when the Israelites, the Jews, were in war, actually, and the Christian church was heavily persecuted by Nero. So this is somewhere around AD 66. And as we can see in the first seal, there went forth a conqueror, a warrior on a white horse. That is not literal, it is symbolic of Titus and Vespasian, who was waging war against the Jews. So here in the opening of the second seal, we now have a red horse. And remember, these are symbols. These are not actual horses, but they are symbols. And this red horse was given unto him to take peace from the land of Israel, from Palestine. Not the whole earth, but Israel, because this is the curses that are being poured out upon the apostate Jews. So this symbol also speaks for itself. Hostilities have now commenced, and the white horse is succeeded by the red, the color of blood. The bow gives place to the sword. This horse has a sword. So peace flies from the land, and all is strife and bloodshed. It is a civil as well as a foreign war. They kill one another. And all this fitly represents the historical fact. The Jewish war under Vespasian commenced at the furthest distance from Jerusalem in Galilee, and it gradually drew nearer and nearer to the doomed city of Jerusalem. Now, folks, we have a secular historical record of the Jewish wars as written by Flavius Josephus. You can get that book and you can read about all of these wars that was taking place between AD 54 and AD 70. It started on the outskirts of the city of Jerusalem and began to come nearer and nearer until Vespasian surrounded the city of, or Titus, the son of Vespasian, surrounded Jerusalem with 80,000 soldiers. The Romans were not the only agents in the work of slaughter that depopulated the land, but hostile factions among the Jews, the zealots themselves, turned their arms against one another. So it might be said that every man's hand was against his brother, fulfilling the prophecy of brother shall be against brother, father against sons. The exchange of the bow for the sword indicates that the combatants had now closed and fought hand to hand. It is another act in the same tragedy. It is worthy to notice that the language of the fourth verse is not obscurely, and it indicates the scenes of war. Peace is taken from the land. And Stewart has accurately interpreted the circumstances. Here, not the whole earth, but the land of Palestine is the land that is concerned. Folks, if you will go back and review my videos or my written commentary on Matthew 24, you will have a written record of the things that's transpiring here in the book of Revelation. But there is a consensus in both books about the return of Christ during this time. Now, let's go to opening of the third seal in chapter 6, verse 5 and 6. And when he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, Come. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard, as it were, a voice in the midst of the four living creatures, saying, A measure of wheat for a denarius, and 3 measures of barley for a denarius, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. This symbol is not difficult of interpretation. It signifies the deepening horrors of war. Famine follows on the heels of war and slaughter. Food is now scarce in Judea and in the beleaguered cities, and most of all in Jerusalem after its investment or its surrounding by Titus. Folks, it is recorded in the history book by Josephus that the food could not get into Jerusalem, so the folks inside the city were starving to death. And not only that, they even ate their own babies. There was no food. The land was desolate because of war. And this black horse represents famine, and that wheat and barley are at famine prices. For the daily wages of the laboring man, which is a denarius, suffices to buy 1 single measure of wheat and 3 times that quantity of inferior grain. Turning again from the prophecy to history, the pages of Josephus furnish us with a fearful commentary on this passage. He is speaking of the scarcity of food in Jerusalem during this period of siege. Here's what he says. Many privately exchanged all they were worth for a single measure of wheat, if they were rich, of barley, if they were poor. Then shutting themselves up in the most retired recesses of their houses, some from the extremity of hunger would eat the grain unprepared. Others would cook it according as necessity and fear dictated. A table was nowhere spread, but snatching the dough half-baked from the fire, they tore it into pieces. But what means the injunction? See thou hurt not the oil and the wine. This has greatly perplexed commentators, for such a command seems not to accord with the prevalence of the famine. If we are not mistaken, Josephus will enable us to reconcile the apparent incongruity. After stating that John of Geshah, one of the partisan leaders who tyrannized over the miserable people in the last days of Jerusalem, seized and confiscated the sacred vessels of the temple. Josephus goes on to relate another act of the sacrilege committed by the same chief, which seems to have aroused the deepest indignation and horror in the mind of the historian. Hence, accordingly, drawing the sacred wine and oil, which the priest kept for pouring on the burnt offerings, and which was deposited in the inner temple. He distributed them among the adherents, who consumed without horror more than a hen in anointing themselves and drinking. And here, I cannot refrain from expressing what my feelings suggest. I am of opinion that had the Romans deferred the punishment of these wretches, either the earth would have opened and swallowed up the city, or it would have been swept away by a deluge, or have shared the thunderbolt of the land of Sodom. For it produced a generation far more ungodly than those who were thus visited. For through the desperate madness of these men, the whole nation was involved in their ruin. This serves to explain the use of the word deal unjustly in this injunction. See thou deal not unjustly with the oil and the wine. Mr. Eliot, in opposition to Dean Alford, contends, for the saints do not commit injustice in respect to the oil. Rennick, as quoted by Alford, witnessed this as waste not. The incident related by Josephus shows how the word suits every variety of rendering. The act of John was in the sense of sacrilege wrong. It was also in the sense of wanton waste. We shall stop here with the black horse, because this horse represents famine, and food was scarce during the deluge and the conflagration of the destruction of Israel, of Jerusalem, and that temple. So we must understand that you and I, in looking at Revelation, it is history to us, but when John wrote it to the 7 churches, it was prophetic. He was prophesying of the coming destruction of Israel, mostly by the Roman army, specifically Nero and Titus and Vespasian, but it is also talking about the coming end of the old Mosaic covenant. This book to the 7 churches was prophetic, but this book to us is history, and we have the written history in the books of Josephus specifically that we can look upon, and that we can understand these symbols and these seals. So I will stop here with the opening of that second seal and the third seal. But then we will pick up again with the opening of the fourth seal next time. May God bless you. This is my prayer.